And whilst Christopher has made a brilliant recovery, there's still lots of problems. Whilst he has made a brilliant recovery, it wasn't that long ago. He's 30 now, 9 when he had his accident, probably about 2 years ago. And there are some people here from Colchester, so they may know the person I'm going to talk about. Our new Chief Executive for Health came from as Chief Executive for Colchester before that. So they may understand where Christopher's coming from on this one. But I was rattling the can, you know, Headway Awareness Week, rattling the cans in town, trying to get some money. And the Chief Executive came up to put some money in, and Christopher was stood next to me. He'd stopped to talk to me. And he said, he just turned to me, the guy's just here. He just turned to me and said, "Who's Wurzel Gummidge?" So some of it has been amusing, but as you understand, as carers and as sufferers, sometimes it can be can get you into problems. So there have been, for both of us, for the families and for Christopher, all sorts of emotional and psychological difficulties on the way. And as a family, huge financial ones. I mean, I'm probably not the only one. I don't mind bearing my soul at places like this. I have done a rough calculation in terms of financial cost to us as a family. Forget the emotional sides, forget the upset, forget everything else, in excess of £100,000. And I could just give you a quick breakdown of that. £40,000 to adapt the house to take his wheelchair. Fortunately, he didn't stay in a wheelchair very long, but we didn't know that. We had to put new doors in, we had to, you know, make provision for him with hand basins and sinks and things like that so that we could wash him in his bed, all those sort of things. No help whatsoever existed for that in Jersey. £40,000 to do that. And in lost opportunities for earnings and everything else, because Jill's only works very part-time because of the need to be on call even now to provide care, that I reckon the financial costs of the family is in excess of 100,000. As I say, Chris has made a brilliant physical recovery, and we'll talk about that as part of the next slide. So, will the improvement continue? Well, we were told, I don't know whether you've been told this, but we were told, well, what he gets back in 2 years will be fine, and that'll be it. I don't know if anyone else has had that said to them. Well, you know, here we are 21 years on, and I can still see improvement. Yes, the growth was very quick. If you did a graph, it'd be a very sharp climb at the beginning, and it's certainly slowed down, but he is still improving. And I used to, I will admit, be one that took advantage of his poor memory at one time. His memory is very good now, much better. Still needs sometimes help to remind him to do things, which is something we can talk about in a minute. But his memory is very much better now than it was. And I used to say to him when he was about 11 or 12, and I apologise for this if you think it's abuse, but if you tidy your bedroom, Chris, I'll buy you a new fishing rod. Knowing full well by the time he tidied his bedroom, he wouldn't remember about the fishing rod. But eventually, of course, yeah, it was cruelty, but eventually I got caught out because he came down one day and said, "Where's that fishing rod?" It just shows that things improve. Will it continue? Well, I think it will, but it's interesting with Trevor's talk that I think some of that is about purpose. Christopher's working in sheltered employment, and, you know, I'm sorry if there's any social workers in here because I'm probably going to be a bit rude, but some mamby-pamby social workers will say that there is no need for sheltered employment. There's every need for sheltered employment, because if every employer was happy to employ someone with some form of disability, not just brain injury, but disability, then I'd be happy to say let's not have sheltered employment. But show me where those jobs are. In the main, they don't exist. So therefore, we must provide people with the opportunity to go to work, and that's why we must have, I believe, sheltered employment. Even if for the more capable, it's part of a transitionary period to get the work ethic and to get some work experience and to get the qualifications they need before going into open employment. That's fine, but they'll say there's no need. He's in sheltered employment, he works as a gardener, and he works very hard, and he enjoys going there. And I think that's part of it. He actually has achieved, along with a number, there was 4, I think, went to the palace on this occasion. He has actually achieved a Gold Duke of Edinburgh award. Now, you know that the Duke of Edinburgh award is about personal challenge. So if you were to take somebody that hadn't had the accident that Christopher's had, they may have achieved at a higher standard. But there again, they started from a higher standard. So it's about bridging that gap, the challenge for each individual. And he achieved a Gold Duke of Edinburgh, and off we all trooped to St James's Palace on that occasion, and I had to on that occasion go to the coffee shop because only one parent was allowed in and Jill went in with him. But that was, he has done it. So will improvement continue? I think it will, but there has to be a purpose behind it. There has to be a goal to aim for. There has to be something to go for. Now, this is where we as carers perhaps need to look at our role, because are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? And I think sometimes we're a bit of both, because we fought very hard for Christopher and pushed very hard for Christopher at the beginning. And now I'm beginning to wonder if, because we're nice and safe and we know where we are and he's reasonably content, are we holding him back? Are we preventing him because we don't want to take the risk? We don't want to see him fail. Could he be living independently? The social workers say yes, but then who's going to make sure, because he needs to be prompted to do everything? Chris, you need to wash. Chris, you need to change your bed. Chris, you need to take your medication twice a day. Are we preventing him from taking those actions because we do them for him? Or should we allow him to try living alone? Because actually he has the same ambitions and aspirations as the rest of us. He wants to have, I'm not sure whether he wants a flat now. One time he certainly did, and maybe that's something we need to work on. But he certainly wants relationship. He's got a girlfriend, but she's not without her own difficulties. But he wants to get married. Apparently he did ask her to marry him the other day, but I'm ignoring it, and he hasn't mentioned it since. Because actually I don't need another heap of, or we don't need another heap of problems. But again, are we part of the problem there, or should we not? You know, he's 30. So we need to think about whether we're part of the problem or part of the solution. I've got no doubt that recovery continues to continue, providing there's a purpose in life. So I concur with Trevor on that one. And we have an opportunity coming up. You know, I spoke a couple of years ago, it might have been last year, time goes fast. Do you remember I talked about the flats that we were hoping to build in Jersey? We're 2 weeks off taking possession of them. They're looking super. And our next plan, because those flats are for people with, who can live independently in adapted accommodation, our next plan is to introduce what I call group homes, where we will have a home with 3 or 4 people living together with their own rooms, but someone living in the whole time to supervise and to make sure that things happen appropriately. Now that might be the first stage before moving into independent living, I don't know. But are we part of the problem, part of the solution? I'll leave you to discuss that later on. Thank you very much.